What is up, my friends? You are very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. Of course, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Tonight, we're going to be talking of a couple of main things. Arne Slot's future as Liverpool manager. We're going to be looking at the centre-back situation as young and younger names get mentioned. We're going to be trying to figure out, are the Reds really going to sign Joel Ordonez? What's going on with Adam Wharton and his future? There's links to Van Heck and lots more that I'm going to go through over the next 90 minutes or so. As always, it's your show. We want to know your thoughts, so do let us know in the comment section. Drop a like if you enjoy this stream, and of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I have lots I want to get my teeth stuck into today, so before we get stuck in, first super chat of the day comes in, and let's address Adam and say thank you. Do you think signing this young centre-back and putting him in the under-21s is to promote an academy player to the first team so the club doesn't have to spend? So, again, lot to unpack there. My understanding is that the kid won't be coming in until the summer anyway. He'll turn 18, he'll stay at Vienna, and then he'll come in the summer. What happens after that? I really don't know as of yet, mate. Now, for those who aren't aware of what we're talking about, let me just break it down for you. Fabrizio Romano and many others today have come out to say Liverpool agreed deal to sign 17-year-old Austrian centre-back Ifani Ndweka from the summer of 2026. Here we go. Agreement in place, valid from July. Austria Vienna accepted the proposal and that it will be in the summer when he joins at 18 years of age. So I don't know the numbers on it just yet, or at least I haven't got them in this particular post, but he is 6'5", so already a very, very imposing figure. Of course, Giovanni Leone, who joined us as well, a very tall centre-back, and we'll give more information on this youngster as the stream goes on. But what his future regards, I don't know. Maybe he comes in the summer, maybe he impresses massively in pre-season, and maybe he does go into the first team. But either way, it's a young, talented player, and it won't be a player coming in January, so it won't be somebody for the here and now anyway. So we do have to wait till he turns 18. So I hope that answered the question at least as best as I can, Adam. And to everyone else that is joining us, thank you. Appreciate you being in here tonight. You're probably confused about the title of the stream, or maybe you just think I've lost the plot again. Again, I want to double down on my information because the more people I have spoken to, the more this is becoming pretty clear to me. Arne Slot won't be lasting past the summer at Liverpool, according to my information. I do think he may last until the summer. I don't have a definitive reason on that, although I have heard some people's views on it. But I don't want to say that as a matter of fact because they are just that, people's opinions, and they vary slightly. Is there a chance that he doesn't see out the season? Yes, there is. But it will take a couple of things to happen, and I'll talk about them as the stream goes on tonight. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to agree with me or each other, but any discussion that we do have, please let it be a civil one, and we'll get stuck into as many of your questions as we can. So, lots to go through today. I want to start off, if I may, with just a little bit around Harvey Elliott because my heart's breaking for the young lad. It really is. So Harvey Elliott will not take up interest from the MLS despite being left in limbo as his career at Liverpool stalls, according to Paul Joyce. Also, Paul Joyce said that Liverpool don't have a recall option in the deal. But Villa could, of course, cancel the loan agreement. Unai Emery has been speaking a little bit about Harvey Elliott, and this is what Unai Emery had to say. The problem we have with Harvey is this year he is on loan, and in case he's playing matches, we must buy him. So obviously, if he plays a certain amount of games, we believe it's 10, then that would trigger an obligation for Aston Villa to buy him. He then said, we decided 2 months ago that we're not convinced to sign him, spending money we need. This is the issue. So Elliott's just stuck in limbo. Really difficult situation. And again, I don't know what's going to happen here. But what I do know is I have every sympathy for Harvey because the whole point of him leaving Liverpool Football Club was to go and get more game time, to try and show what he can do in the first team setup. And he just hasn't had the chance to do that. So it just feels like he's been, I don't want to say shafted because Liverpool would have sent him out with the best of intentions, but the situation, the way it happened at Villa, certainly hasn't worked out in Harvey Elliott's favour. So I have a lot of sympathy for the young man, and I do hope he can get some football in between now and June because, look, he deserves to play. Mark, how are we, bro? Said 2026 will be the year of Anfield Agenda, WFM. Well, I had some fun late last night going back over all the numbers and statistics and bits and pieces from the year on the channel, and it's been our best one to date by a long, long way. And again, to everybody for that one, thank you. Now, as you can see, folks, tonight, once again, we are being brought to you thanks to our friends at Big Up. And I want to play you a demo video because every one of the Anfield Agenda watch-alongs is going to be accompanied by a predictions game on Big Up. Don't forget to come and join us on Big Up, a community platform where you can play along with us on our predictions game to add a bit more competition to our watch along. What I mean by competition is I want to see if you're better than me at this, because quite simply I back my football knowledge, but I want to see if you guys can beat me. Predictions on Big Up is a sweepstakes game where you can win fantastic prizes, and there's even a free to play option. Download the Big Up iOS app. Go over to bigup.com or just click on the QR code in the bottom corner. Click on the Anfield Agenda Fulham watch along and you see a list of 6 prediction questions for the match with yes or no answers. Answer between 2 and 6 of the predictions questions and choose your entry amount. Predictions can be entered for between $2 and $10. They are maxed at $10 because we do want this to be about enjoyment and fun and nothing else. Choose your entry amount and then decide if you'd like to play the power play or the flex play option. In power play, you must get every one of your selections correct to win a prize. But in flex play, even if one of your selections loses, you'll still win a prize as long as you've made a minimum of 3 selections. When you join Big Up and play your first prediction game, you'll automatically receive $5 or 500 big bucks as a thank you. You can use that for future prediction games or to gift to your favourite Big Up content creator. Now, as you can see, there's been a demo video playing, but I want to show you my picks and talk you through them because I think they're interesting. So what I've gone for this week is I've gone balls out and I've gone for the full power play option, and I've picked 4 questions. So there will be under 3 goals in this match. We've said no, there won't be. Hugo Ekitike will score a goal. We've said yes, he will. Raul Jimenez will score a goal or give an assist. We've said no. And there will be 3 cards, or there will be over 3 cards in the match between Fulham and Liverpool, and we have said yes. So if you think those are good, let me know. If you think you would go differently, of course, I do want to know about it because I want to test your football knowledge. And for me, I've enjoyed playing it over the last few weeks. I keep checking in on the leaderboard during our watch-alongs as well, and congrats to everyone that's done well so far. Right, let's get into some more questions. So, Austria Vienna fan here. Ndwoke, excuse my pronunciation by the way, I'm still getting to grips with it, is absolute class. He played for the Austrian under-17 side at the World Cup, and he was one of the reasons why we reached the final from Vienna. Well, thank you, my man. Thank you so much for that input. It really does help out. Do you know what freaks me out in these situations? So we've got Giovanni Leone, and then we've got this kid coming in. How can you be 6'5" at 17? My God. I mean, I often think back, you know, I played right up until under 18 football myself. And I'm thinking back thinking, God, imagine me coming up against a 6'5" centre-back coming up for a corner or whatever, and I'm coming out trying to catch the ball or clear my area as a goalkeeper. Man, it's mad. Like, man monsters at the age of 17. Wow. And yes, I did see, of course, in the under-17 World Cup how well Austria did do. So thank you so much, man, for that information. It really is a big help to us and our viewers. Craig, I promise, Slot was to give Jurgen a rest, said El Stew. Mate, I would love you to be right on this one, Stu. And, you know, for all my information on the fact that I do think Slot is gone in the summer, I don't know the name of the candidate to replace. I've been told a few to keep an eye on, but I couldn't sit here, mate, with any level of confidence and tell you who will be the next Liverpool manager. I don't know yet. I'll talk about it more in detail as the stream goes on. This one from Leona said, controversial take. Would you take Maresca as manager for the interim? No, not because I don't think he's a good manager, but because if we're going to fire ARNE and we like Maresca, then why not just offer him the job? you know. And I don't think Maresca's going to want to walk into an interim job either. I truly don't know what way his future is going to go, but I do know he's been highly regarded at Manchester City. He worked under Pep Guardiola, of course, before I think taking up the Leicester job, then the Chelsea job. And there's been plenty of talk that he could be Pep Guardiola's successor whenever Pep may leave City. Kyle said, "Hi Craig, do you think Slot makes it to the summer? Any ideas on replacements, short or long term? Keep up the good work. Love the channel." So look, do I think he makes it to the summer? This is the interesting part of it for me, because my information is that the reason he's still in a job right now is not because the club have faith and believe in him. It's because the club don't deem that there is a natural successor ready to come in. Now, a couple of people have said something to me, and I want to make this really clear because I know these things get clipped up. These are just people's opinions, and this particular thing I'm about to say doesn't come as matter of fact as the Arne Slot losing his job statement. But a couple of people have said to me that there's a fear that if Steven Gerrard was brought in an interim basis, now again, not stating this as a fact, but if Steven Gerrard was brought in an interim basis and did well, there would be a groundswell of support, but everybody knows that the correct decision would be not to give Steven Gerrard the job moving forward. And I have to say, whilst I don't know this as a matter of fact, the thought process behind it, I fully agree with. Because it's easy to get sucked in. Let's say Stevie G came in and start getting Liverpool moving in the right direction. Maybe got us deep into the Champions League, semi-final, something like that. Hell, maybe even wins an FA Cup. It would be very easy for Liverpool fans to fall in love with the idea of Gerrard being that guy. And the club, from what I've been told by a couple of people, don't want that to happen. And I have to say, I would 100% agree with the idea of no long-term job for Steven Gerrard as Liverpool coach yet. It may come in 5-10 years' time down his managerial career. But I've said I wouldn't mind Gerrard as an interim many, many times on the channel. But in no way do I want him to get the job no matter what he does, because I don't think it is the right appointment for the club in a long-term capacity. That being said, that's just chatter from a couple of people. But the fact about his job, I don't want to say he's a dead man walking in his job because it's a weird phrase, but I kind of feel like he's even aware of the situation at this point. And a while ago, there was some talk that it might take a miraculous turnaround. I don't think there's even room for a miraculous turnaround now. I do think in the summer it's bye-bye. Hey Craig, Shane and Donald here. Love the channel. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Really do. Appreciate all your support. We do have a poll running, by the way, where I'm asking, do you think Liverpool sign Joel Ordonez in January? I'll give you more context on that in a moment, because there is very, very, very mixed reporting on our interest in him today. It used to be that there wasn't much from the English side, but now we've seen the likes of Jack Lusby and a few others have their say, and I will move on to that in a moment. Eddie Cox Wilkins said, do you think Slot knows he's going to be sacked in the summer? So the people I've spoken to about this are split. Some people think he does know, and some people think he doesn't. I don't know the correct answer. I don't know if it's been communicated to him or not. If I had to guess on it, I'd probably say yes. But I would be just guessing. So I've got to make that clear. But he also can't be stupid, right? So I'm going to go through tonight and give you many reasons from me and journalists as to why this hasn't been good enough. And I hope that anybody who thinks I have an agenda against ARNE by the end of this sees that it's not that I have an agenda, it's just that I've been right. I don't often come on here to try to be arrogant or to try to say I know this or I know that. But I know my football, and I've known that this hasn't been good enough. I've known that the excuses have been bullshit. And now the media and others are starting to point out the flawed methodology from ARNE and some of what he's saying. And I've got some notes on that to move on to in a little bit. Nessie said, if you're the manager right now, Craig, what 3 things would you change? Also, is Ordonez really that good? Love the podcast episodes. So, lots of things to unpack there. Let's go backwards. Thank you for the podcast episodes. We're trying to figure out exactly when we'll get the next one squeezed in. Chris is on a really well-earned 4 days off from his job, and he's just having his Christmas celebrations now. So we're going to try and pin down a day to get the 3 of us back together. Is Joel Ordonez really that good? In my opinion, yes. I think he's very, very good. But is he good enough? Is always subjective when you're talking about a 21-year-old defender. But it's a signing I would be very comfortable with as a Red. And the first part, if I'm the manager now, what 3 things would I change? The style of football, the formation, and how I communicate with the fans and press conferences. There are 3 things I would probably change if I was ARNE. I'll move on to give you a bit more on that now. So let's go through a few things, and let's start off with Sam Maguire. So Sam Maguire wrote a piece. I think it's on his Substack, if I'm not mistaken, so do check it out, or just go over to X and go into Sam Maguire's account and you'll see. So he said Liverpool had a win probability rate of 48% in the Premier League this season. It was 53% during the entirety of 2025. He goes on to say, this isn't just a blip, and it definitely isn't just bad luck. Now, I've been saying this for a while as well. Sam's took a bit of a deep dive into the numbers behind it, and I'd certainly urge you to go and have a read of it. But as I finished up yesterday, and as I started to round up my work, something caught my eye, and it came from Paul Gorst of the Echo. And it's been accompanied by James Pearce and something he said, but again, I'll move on to that in a minute. So Paul Gorst, after last night's dull 0-0 draw with Leeds, wrote this. It's difficult now, even as the second half of the term gets underway, to define what Liverpool's style is meant to be. For all the money spent reshaping a title-winning squad, that has to fall on head coach Arne Slot. Verdict from a goalless draw at Anfield. And then he goes on, obviously, to write his piece. Now, James Pearce put up something similar today. That Connor, and this had nothing to do with me for once, Connor just instinctively knew what I wanted him to do and did this. Connor posted back saying, but James, what about 2 weeks ago? What about 2 weeks ago when you were saying that Arne had silenced the doubters, that Arne had turned things around? No reply to that apparently from Mr. Pearce. But then again, hey, he does have a book to sell, right? So, like I've said, I've been pushing back against a lot of the journalist stuff for a long time. It gives me a lot of grief. It gives me huge headaches, and my life would be so much easier just to play along with everybody else and go, yeah, life's great. But it isn't, and it's not good enough, and you deserve better. Now I'm going to show you 2 things that wound me up today. Both of them around a low block, because the words low block keep coming in over and over again. In fact, before I do, let's just catch up with a couple of comments, because I don't want to ignore the chat either. Right. All I know about Belgium is their chocolate is expensive, and my body loves it. It's pretty good chocolate, else too. I'm not going to lie, dude. Who doesn't love a bit of Belgian chocolate? Right, what else we got in the chat? Is Fabregas the right man? He takes the Palace gaffer. So, says Fabregas, I think will probably end up somewhere like Barcelona, Chelsea in the future. I don't know what's going to happen with him now. I don't know what his immediate future is. I haven't really tracked him. But I don't think he's likely to come into the thinking for Liverpool. Don't rule it out, because you can never rule anything out. But it's just not looking likely on that one. L. Stew said, I know a man, Craig. He said when Klopp left the club, told him they would get somebody short term. He has the option of returning. I will die on that hill if I'm wrong. So I would very much love for you to be right on that, mate. But I can't see a world that him and Michael Edwards work at the club together again. I can't. You all know why. You all know that there seemingly was a butting of heads there. But would I take him back? In a heartbeat, of course. But I have no information to suggest that that's likely or that that's the case. I think it's far more likely if Klopp does ever return to coaching that it would be with the German national team or maybe another national team. but I don't think he's going to come back into club football. That's my opinion, but it is just that, an opinion. So somebody sent me a few clips today from a segment that the Anfield Wrap were talking about and asked me for my opinion on it. I don't want to really talk too much about it other than to say, rather than bring it up into the chat and ask me about it today, I'm just going to say this. It's not my place to comment on other people's content around Liverpool Football Club unless I'm brought into that conversation. I do think everybody has different ways of delivering their content. And like I've always said, I've always had respect for the lads at the Anfield Wrap. So if they're having any grief today over a segment or anything like that, you know, I don't really want to add anything to it because it's nothing to do with me. And again, I just wish everybody all the best. So I just wanted to save that because I know some people are going to ask me about it in the chat. And I just don't want I don't want to stick the boot into another LFC content creator whatsoever because despite the fact that they seemingly don't like me, because I have reached out to them in the past to say, hey, how about doing a video together, guys? Big fan of what you do. Love your podcast. Always have. And they told me that, you know, they've checked out our channel and I'm not the right vibe for them. And that's okay. No problem with that. But I'm not going to stick the boot into them when they're having a bad day. So please just don't bring that one up to me. Now, the two things I promised you I wanted to talk about that are winding me up. Let's start with our captain. So Virgil van Dijk today said this: I sense the fans feeling uneasy as well. It's very easy to say we should move the ball quicker when you play against a team that will play with a 5-4-1 or a 5-3-2. Sometimes you have to drag them to one side and then obviously speed up. But like I said, the last part of our game tonight wasn't good enough. I think against Wolves in the first half, we showed very much how good we can be, but today it wasn't meant to be. Now, he does go on to speak a little bit more, but I want to focus on the first part of what he said. What have you heard me tell you every single week watching Liverpool when we're playing against a low block? Exactly what Virgil has said. You move the ball quicker and you create overloads on the sides. So Virgil knows what he's talking about and has come out talking sense. Our manager, this is what he had to say immediately after the game yesterday around the low block and how to deal with it. See if you spot a difference. If you look at football, then you see two ways of unlocking a low block. You need pace, you need to be quick and dominate your one-on-one situations, or you need a set piece. Did you see the words overload in there anywhere? Because overloads is the right word. I keep pointing to Manchester City. I keep pointing to the fact that De Bruyne was a master at it. You move the ball quickly, you create overloads on the far side, and you play the ball deep to the back post. That's what you do. Or you play the ball from the byline to a third man run. It's not rocket science. Our captain knows it. He's come out and said it. But our manager, well, he seems to think there's only two ways to do it. Beat your man in the one-on-ones or a set piece. Our manager, the head coach. So whatever you want to say, the more this man speaks, the more I think he sounds clueless about what his job is. And then he said, not for the first time this season, from all the ball possession we have, and we do generate chances, but I don't think it's enough, or maybe it should be enough if you look at the XG, but we should be able to create more. Fuck the XG. And fuck these excuses. Because that's all they are. XG means twiddly shit. Because the scoreboard is what counts. And this manager has overseen a set of results this season and a style of football that is absolutely unacceptable. It's boring, it's monotonous, and it's dull. And it is not the Liverpool way. So again, things are starting to turn now. Even the club-friendly, club-centric media, whatever way you want to say it, they're even now questioning the manager. Why do you think that might be? I think, and this is just my view, that they're starting to hear the same things that I'm hearing. That they maybe don't have to protect the manager as much. That they maybe can be a bit more outspoken and critical of him. Because they're finally starting to say the things that you, I, and many of our community and many other Liverpool fans around the world have been saying for a long time, but we get mocked over. We get called fake fans, plastic fans, non-match going fans, whatever phrase you want to use. But here's the thing, folks. You were right. I was right. We've always been right. Some people just didn't want to admit that. And that's okay. But at least now the tide is turning because we've deserved better. The players we have are far capable of better performances than we're seeing. And it is down to the manager and his style. So for all the people that think I have an agenda against ARNE, I don't. But I do have an agenda against poor football. I do have an agenda against fans being spoken to like idiots. And it isn't a new one. It's one that I've spoken about on this channel for years on end. Media and reporting that tells us the exact opposite of what we're seeing with our own eyes. We're treated like idiots and it needs to stop. So thank you for hearing me out on that one. Let me see what you guys think in the comments. It was all part of my plan. Said Luis Enrique would be perfect for our current team. He would, but you know, he's hugely regarded at Paris Saint-Germain. I think his family are settled there. There was talk in the Parisian papers last week of something tantamount to a lifetime contract offer going on the table there for him. So I wouldn't imagine it's possible at this moment in time to get him out of PSG. But he's a great coach. The news of Joe came in a sudden. I haven't heard about him until today. Joe? Are you talking about Ordonez? Joel Ordonez. There's mixed reporting on Joel Ordonez, and I don't know which way to go with this one. And I'll read out those mixed reports in a moment. If anybody has an agenda against the manager, it's me, because I want him gone regardless, said Eddie Cox-Wilkins. Proud to be a member. On benefits, partner is autistic and 2 toddlers. You brighten up my day and you've helped me more than you know. Any Semenyo news? No, unfortunately, oh, mate, I wish I did have some positive Semenyo news, but it's looking more and more likely like he will end up at Manchester City. And for what it's worth, I still don't think that's the right move for him. You know, Arsenal, us, I think would have been better moves. But, you know, Manchester City are putting the money down on the table and, you know, he can only make a decision based on the opportunities that are in front of him. It's because a new manager is inbound. That's why they're suddenly talking about Slot and his tactics. I've heard he goes in the summer, but I'm thinking it's sooner now. So, from my understanding, if something came up, and I don't know who it is, by the way. I don't know a name. So it could be Alonso, could be Glasner, could be anyone. Don't know. But what I do know is if somebody that the club felt was ideal popped up, I believe they would act before the season ends. Yes, I do. But other than that, I'm not sure. You know, the Gerrard thing, I can't say is a fact. I can only say it's something that I've heard from a couple of different people. But then again, I've heard other things from others. But a consistent theme from what I've been hearing is that he is treading water and that he will be gone. And I don't say this lightly. He deserves to be fired. He deserves to be fired. Look, he won the league. But how long are we going to carry on with that? How long are we going to just say he won the league, so therefore he gets a pass on everything? Because this season's been shocking. The end of last season's been shocking. A title-winning team that has had 450 million spent on it has found every excuse possible under the sun to talk about the underperformances, bar the upfront honesty of it just hasn't been good enough. Simple as that. Everything else is excuses. The manager talks about injuries. Well, that's because you don't have options. You want a small squad, you ignore some of the players in your squad, and then you talk about injuries and workload. Well, you haven't spread that workload out, ARNE, and you've ignored players. Injuries are going to happen. We've gone into a season with 2 centre-backs and Joe Gomez and a youngster. The youngster, really unfortunate, got injured. Joe Gomez, everybody knows, with the best intentions and the best will in the world, Joe's going to pick up some injuries throughout the season. And they've allowed this to go into the season with Canade, and we still don't know what's going on there. So Arne Slot has fucked around with formations. He has fallen out with players. He acts dumb, like Mohamed Salah all of a sudden just randomly came out of nowhere unhappy, even though it then came out that him and his representatives talked to Arne about their displeasure a little bit beforehand. Now, I'm not saying what Salah did was right, but what I'm saying is, for me, sometimes it isn't one thing that makes me make a decision. It's a lot of little things. And from being one of ARNE's biggest supporters and backers to where I am now, it's taken a lot to get me here. But I don't see the signs. I don't see the positivity. I see another dour 0-0 draw at home against Leeds United. A team fighting for their lives. And fair play to them, they deserve that point. I'm not here to say Leeds got lucky. They deserve their point. And we were close to conceding with Calvert-Lewin, but thankfully he was offside. That's the facts. And the fixtures are not going to get easier. We're away at Craven Cottage. A fixture with a history that's been quite mixed. Then we've got Arsenal coming up away. Then we've got Marseille away. We've got Barnsley at home in the FA Cup. There are tricky fixtures coming up, and we are not going into them in good form. Have we blitzed the easy run of fixtures? No. You can say we're unbeaten in 8, but we're still clinging on in 4th place. And we're dropping points against teams that have no right to be taking points off us. So if that makes us entitled Liverpool fans, so be it. But I've been spending so much time today reading and trying to take the temperature of other fans. And everybody, every man, woman and child that watches our football club despises the style of football that they're seeing. Because it is dull, it is boring, and it is very, very un-Liverpool-like. And nobody, including now the journalists, can figure out what the hell the plan is. And what the style is. And what the goal is for the way we play. Cal said, Craig, a message 2 days ago saying the journos would blindly back ARNE until Daddy FSG says otherwise. Q Pierce for the real-time vindication. This is what winds me up, mate, about these journalists. So many of them. And I wouldn't put James Pearce in this category, by the way, what I'm about to say. James does toe the company line on a lot of stuff, but he doesn't talk down or look down to other people a lot of the time. But so many of the other journalists, they report back this stuff and talk about us all being spoiled, wanting to be Chelsea fans, Manchester City fans, not match-going fans. The online Liverpool fan base says this, that and the other. No, we just know that some of what you're writing is bullshit. And we know that you don't believe that deep down. But we also know that you need to keep your relationship with the club. So that's why I call them out. I don't call them out because I want to be into a row with these people. I call them out because I'm fed up of fans being treated like idiots. You know your football. I know my football. We know this is shit. It doesn't need stats. It doesn't need measurements. It doesn't need a deep dive analysis, although they all help. Your own two eyes are enough to tell you that you're going to these games and you're leaving these games and you're just shrugging your shoulders going, what was that? 5 phone calls I had last night after the game. 5 phone calls to people who attended it. Some of them from Ireland, some of them from the UK. Every single one of them said them and those around them were fed up with the performances, fed up with the style of play, and were confused by it. So it isn't just a small percentage. It's the majority of us. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I thought the football was boring last season, but I thought we're winning games, so it must be me not getting it, and now it's atrocious, said Craig Adams. So, at least last season, I recognised some of what we were doing. And there were changes made, and there was a bit less intensity to the press. But I do credit ARNE for being able to keep players fit enough to get over the line last season. But now we're even seeing journalists, and again I was watching, I think it was the Sunday Supplement or one of the Sky shows, and even they were saying that Liverpool were just the most consistent of a pretty up and down inconsistent league last season. So they were almost suggesting that it wasn't the brilliance of ARNE that did it. It was that we were able to just be consistent. And some of that was down to the fact that the players were playing together quite a while. Some of it was down to the manager and Ruben Peters being able to manage the load on them a little bit better. But what never gets spoken about enough are the failures. The Plymouth Argyle loss. The League Cup final loss to Newcastle. The pathetic way we went out of the Champions League with a whimper. The thrown away of the League Cup this season. These aren't good enough. Your Reds, your defending champions, are scraping 4th place at the minute. And they're looking over their shoulder to see who's coming behind them. We're not at the top of the table fighting for the title. This is it. Arne's tactical capability was figured out in March, said Oliver Hunt. It was mad because there were so many times last season that it felt like whatever he said in the dressing room at halftime worked. And I was genuinely, and I'm not just saying this, man, I was genuinely impressed with his tactical acumen and how he was able to make small changes that did have an impact in the second half of games. This season, at least in the short term, the last couple of games, we've come out in the second half and been worse somehow than in the first. And then we've seen him outwitted and outmanaged by the likes of Glasner repeatedly over and over again. And I've said this, I find the fanboying of Guardiola and Enrique and some of the other teams we've been playing before we've played them extremely weak mentally and sending out the wrong message. It's grand to compliment the team, but Jesus, at least wait till the game's over. At least wait till we've either won or lost and then go ahead and do it. Going into it almost with a psychological inferiority complex was weird. Itachi said Slot doesn't fit the Liverpool way. I think players have noticed that. It's a disgrace how we threaten players like Fede and Rio, or treated players, excuse me. You said threatened, but I think you meant to say treated. Players like Fede and Rio, and I feel so sorry for Harvey. What a great fella. There was almost this desire from some of the journalists to paint a picture of this love affair between Liverpool fans and Arne Slot. And that was never the case. There's always going to be a huge sense of admiration, gratitude, and respect for a coach that wins a league title. That's no argument there. But again, I don't know anybody that really feels that connection. And it's a difficult one to mentally try to figure out because you ask yourself, okay, am I not feeling the connection because his name isn't Jurgen Klopp and because Jurgen was such a special one-off individual that we may never feel this again? Or am I not feeling this real connection to this manager because he's just not my type of guy? And that's an individual answer that I can't give you the answer for you on. That is an individual thing. But I can tell you this for me, his body language on the sidelines really annoys me because it's nowhere near fiery enough. It's nowhere near passionate enough. And whether that's his way or not, we know how Anfield works. We know what gets Liverpool fans up off their feet. It is crushing challenges. It is aggression. It is emotion being displayed by the players and the coaches on the sidelines. That has always been the case. Whether it's a crunching tackle from Robbo, whether it's Conor Bradley getting stuck into Mbappe, whether it is Liverpool just pouring attack after attack after attack. That's what gets fans up off their seat. Liverpool fans have been respectful of Arne, in my opinion, rather than head over heels in love with him. Thundercats Litterbox said you need to stop calling them journalists. They're public relations contractors. They're paid with access and gift boxes instead of money. Now look, I didn't make any of those claims about being paid with this, that or the other. The access thing I agree on. But I've spoken about this for a long time. I think it isn't just a Liverpool issue. I think there is an imbalance in football between journalism and the power that clubs hold over the access to certain things. And I don't like it. And I've always said this. But when I say it, I get said that I'm bitter and jealous because I'm not one of the ones that gets any love or interaction from the club. And there's a small part of that sometimes is true. But my biggest gripe has always been, and I'm standing over this, I don't think there's room for dissenting voices in football. FIFA went to ground when the football fans were outraged over the World Cup ticketing prices. Stonewalled them. Stone deaf. Remember, they're there as custodians of the game and they're a non-profit and they're still creaming off everybody. So I don't think that these people who write these stories think about their own credibility. Because if I'm a journalist or I'm in college studying to become a journalist, I don't know anybody that goes there that doesn't want to be somebody that uncovers something, or that asks difficult questions, or that asks on behalf of a readership because they don't have access, but I do. Therefore, I, as the journalist, I'm going to ask the questions that I think my readership, my viewers, my audience, my television company are going to want to know the answers to. This world of there are certain things you can and can't ask is bullshit. And it's a problem right throughout football. There is no room for dissenting voices. And I can only speak about this around our club, particularly. Because if you're a dissenting voice, you're toxic, you're a troublemaker, or you're a bad apple. Simple as that. Couldn't be that maybe you have a point. Couldn't be that maybe there are things that need to be addressed that aren't being. It's always just blacklist, ignored. And if you speak up about it, you're jealous. That's the way it's been for a lot of people. And I'd love to hear from fans of other clubs. Because like I said, I'm a Liverpool fan. So I don't pay as much attention to press conferences. But I do see other sports in other parts of the world. And I do see far more imposing questions asked about the state of play at clubs in other parts of the world. Leona said, Slot has no connection with the fans. I miss Jurgen's fist pumps. Hector said, just rewatch the videos of Arne's speech in the dressing room. And all I got is that at halftime, he can inspire fighting spirit in the players. Or he can't inspire fighting spirit in the players. He lacks the passion to do it. I remember just before he arrived at Liverpool, and I think Liverpool had either made the decision to hire Arne or were about to. And there was a speech doing the rounds of him speaking to the Feyenoord players, I believe after they'd beaten either PSV Eindhoven or Ajax. And it was spoken about as this inspiring speech from Liverpool's new head coach. And I watched it and I thought, what's inspiring about that? He stated some facts. He gave his players some credit. He talked about nothing having been achieved yet. But there was fuck all inspiring about it. You know, it's certainly no Al Pacino Any Given Sunday type speech. So from the get-go in day one, I feel like there has been a race to try to make out like the fans are blindly behind this guy 100%. And nothing's going to change there. And that love affair is there non-stop. Right, some more of your comments. Actually, let's check in on our poll, because we do have a poll running. How has this been 43 minutes already, by the way, folks? My goodness, we've gone through a lot in 43 minutes. Right, so we have a poll running in the chat, and we asked, do you think we will sign Joel Ordonez in January? We've had 2,500 votes. 62% of people say yes, and 38% of people are saying no, that they don't think we'll sign Joel Ordonez. So let me give you a bit of a flavour of the reporting around the Joel Ordonez situation from today. And it is quite contrasting in who's saying what. So, one report says, from Sasha Tavalieri, at this moment, there has been no contact between Liverpool and Club Brugge regarding Joel Ordonez, who does appear on a list of targets and defenders appreciated by the scouting department, situation to keep an eye on. Couple of reports from South America and Ecuador said that in the coming hours, keep an eye on the situation because Liverpool are close to a breakthrough. Then another one from Chobo Alvarez said these are key hours for a deal to bring Joel Ordonez to Liverpool, who are ready to put a total package of £43 million on the table for the defender, comprising of £35 million plus £8 million in add-ons. I don't know which side of that is true, but then we contrast that with Jack Lusby, who I believe still writes for This Is Anfield, if I'm right, said Joel Ordonez update, told there is no truth to the claims of Liverpool nearing a £35 million deal for the Club Brugge centre-back. There's known interest in the Ecuador international, but reports this week have been downplayed emphatically. So, what do you take from that? Truth is, I don't really know. Because even the ones that said, like Jack Lusby there, that said, talks of anything and pending have been downplayed. That doesn't mean that Liverpool aren't interested and it still might not happen. It could mean that maybe Liverpool are nowhere near as far along as some others are reporting. So on this one, I really don't know, folks. Again, James Pearce said Liverpool are in talks to sign highly rated young centre-back Iafini Ndokwe from Austria Vienna, and that one is coming through, as we said earlier on. Promising young centre-back, a key player during this Under-17 World Cup, one of Austria's biggest current talents, will leave Austria Vienna this summer to head to Liverpool, according to Alex Huber 81, who's been credited as the breaking source on this one. The defender is 6'5" or 1.98 metres tall. And already Liverpool will be paying millions in transfer fees. The player will stay at his club until the summer and then join the Reds when he turns 18. And as I mentioned then, Romano said Liverpool agreed deal to sign 17-year-old Austrian centre-back Iafeni Ndweke, or spelled Ndukwe, and apologies for my pronunciation, Ndukwe, maybe is better, for the summer 2026. Here we go. Paul Joyce then, about Harvey Elliott, said, as it stands, Harvey Elliott will not return to Liverpool. Liverpool have no recall option and there's been no contact from Aston Villa. So Ben Jacobs, he's been speaking a little bit about Adam Wharton. And this is what Ben Jacobs has had to say on Adam Wharton. Crystal Palace want to get Adam Wharton to sign a new deal and keep him, then make it a saga in 2027. If that doesn't happen, there's a gentleman's agreement, to my understanding, for about 60 to 65 million pound that Adam Wharton could go if a Champions League club comes calling. No movement in January. And this coming from Ben Jacobs. So that one doesn't look possible for January anyway for Liverpool. Anfield Edition posted Footy Insider to say Jan-Paul van Heck wants to join Liverpool, with the defender unlikely to commit to a new contract at Brighton, having become aware of interest from Liverpool and Spurs. So again, a few bits of information there around potential centre-backs. And I want to go all the way back to something else before I forget. My Irish club, Shelbourne FC, have completed the signing of defender James Norris from Liverpool on a permanent deal. Young Norris joined 22 years of age on a season-long loan last February and quickly established himself as a first-team regular, making 45 appearances in all competitions and winning the club's Young Player of the Year award. He went on to say, absolutely delighted to make the move permanent. So, yes, welcome to Shelbourne, and wishing them all the best there as well. Right, Keane sent me on something in a second that I want to move on to, but before I do, let me just come of your thoughts. Craig, thoughts on Emery's statement regarding Elliott? I respect his transparency, but why did Villa sign him on loan only to hamper his development? So, an Aston Villa fan, Haris, very kindly came into the chat a couple of months ago, because I was asking this very same question about Harvey Elliott that you were. And this Villa fan very kindly came in to say, look, Craig, as I understand it, Monchi wanted Jadon Sancho and Harvey Elliott brought in, and Unai Emery was against it. Now, I don't know the situation with Jadon Sancho's loan agreement, but I know in Liverpool's loan agreement, if a certain amount of games are played by Elliott, believed to be about 10, then that triggers an obligation for 35 million. So it seems like Unai Emery was never really a fan of bringing him in, but the sporting director there at the time, Monchi, was, and Monchi, of course, has since left the club, which leaves Elliott in no man's land. So I think that's kind of where we're at with that situation. So, Indy Kayla has just said, bombshell exclusive, Liverpool making extraordinary moves to sign Adam Wharton, and Liverpool are in talks with Crystal Palace to see if a deal can be done at a realistic price. You can take from that what you want. I'm not sure what to believe on that one, because I have nothing I can add to that conversation. So, let me just ask you guys a couple of quick things. Firstly, thank you for joining me again tonight. Really appreciate it. If you can, do drop a like on the stream for me. And if you haven't subscribed, we'd love you to do that. Once again, as you can see, we are being brought to you with thanks to our friends at Big Up. If you haven't played a Big Up prediction game with us yet, we've already had quite a few winners, and well done to all of those. If you'd like to think that you can beat me, well, here are my picks for the game, and I want to know what you guys think about them. So, as you can see, my picks are that there will be under 3 goals in the match. I've said no. So we're going for 3 goals or more in the match. There will be Ekatike will score a goal. We've said yes. Raul Jimenez to score a goal or give an assist, we've said no. And there will be over 3 cards in the match, we've said yes. And because we've gone for the power play option, if all of those come in, we would win $38.50 or 3,850 big bucks. So, yeah, let us know your thoughts on those selections. And, of course, if you think you can come and beat us, get yourself over the Big Up by downloading the iOS app, scan in that QR code or go to bigup.com and have a go yourself. We'll be doing it right the way throughout the season at a little bit more fun every Liverpool game. And like I said, the maximum stake that you can put down is $10 because it isn't about trying to fleece people. It isn't a gambling product. It is a sweepstakes product, and we want to add a bit more enjoyment and competition and interactivity to the Anfield Agenda watch-alongs moving forward. And I've really enjoyed the first 3 we've done, and the amount of entries have been growing week on week on week, and thank you so much to everyone that has supported us there so far. I feel like I've been on a mad one since we started, and I haven't even had time to take a breath yet, so I'm just going to grab a quick drink. Bear with me a moment. Also, for a bit of fun, do let us know if you guys have any New Year's resolutions or anything like that. We're working on something behind the scenes that our Discord know a bit more about, but we're working to try to do a limited edition, very small run of exclusive Anfield Agenda memorabilia boxes. I'm not going to give you any more information than that at the minute, but we're looking into a couple of things, and we're going to try to do this in a very limited run. And when I have more info on it, I'll give it to you. But I think you'll like what the idea we're going with. And it's in response, of course, to a lot of people asking us for stuff over the last few years. This came to me last night when I was sitting there, and I scribbled it down because I often have notes late at night that I scribble down. And I like the idea of it, so I hope you guys do as well. But when I have a bit more on it, of course, I will let you know. And look, it won't be Anfield Agenda Willy Warmers. That definitely isn't going to be it, because they don't make them small enough for me, so therefore I'm having nothing to do with it. Yeah. And they also don't make things big enough for my big fat head, because I did notice, actually, myself and my daughter do have a rather fat head. Because my wife and my son always try on baseball caps, and then myself and my daughter have to, try and squeeze them onto our fat noggins. So yeah, bit of a tangent there, but you know me. Does ARNE still get the sack if he wins the Champions League? Don't know. I don't know. See, the reason I paused for a second is because there was an initial report that said it would take something extraordinary like that to save him. But now I don't think there is saving. Look, if you win the Champions League, do I think you should be sacked? No, I don't. If you win the Premier League one year and you win the Champions League the next year, do I think a manager should be fired? No. If I'm being really honest about it, even allowing for my own doubtings, I think that should be enough to keep somebody in their job. But let's be honest about this. With what you're seeing right now, what's the likelihood of us winning the Champions League? And maybe I'll go a step further. For me, I think it's going to be a case of individuals stepping up to perform individual moments of brilliance rather than that being a systematic achievement to win us the Champions League. So an example I would give is, I think Luis Enrique's changes at Paris Saint-Germain last year is what allowed them to develop the system that got them to win the Champions League. It didn't rely on individual moments of brilliance. It was a systematic change, and it needed buy-in from the players, and it worked. I don't think ARNE is capable of that or showing signs of doing that. So that's the reason I paused, because I don't think he will win the Champions League. Tipsy Dipsy said, I've never felt so disconnected with my own club. It's just been a really tough time for Liverpool fans, and myself, of course, included, because it's been a roller coaster of emotions. We won a league title. We celebrated it. We mourned the death of Diogo and Andre. We signed some world-class talent. And there are, of course, mitigating circumstances, like we've said. And I think ARNE has handled a lot of things very well. I think he's handled the whole Diogo situation with incredible dignity and respect all the way through it. I'm not trying to say that there aren't things about ARNE I like. I think ARNE deep down is a good man. And I don't have a personal grudge against him. I just don't think he's good enough. And that's something that has evolved from me being a 10 out of 10 supporter of his to it gradually fading down. And it didn't just come from this season. You know, go back to the end of last season. I was outspoken about the way we ended the season and how I didn't think it was good enough. I was outspoken that I don't think he can just turn doing the right things on and off. And habits, they are formed because you do them consistently. It becomes second nature. And so many times this season, we just haven't hit those levels. And, you know, others have spoken about the way we celebrated the league title and it almost being a bit small club mentality-ish and, you know, almost giving away some points at the end of the season. But that League Cup final against Newcastle was a big warning sign in my mind. I said it at the time and I'll say it again. I know Newcastle fans hate me and I'm not going to lie, some of that feeling is mutual at the moment. But back then, I thought, okay, look, you've lost the cup, but you've lost it to Newcastle. Fans that have been waiting a long time for a trophy. And fair play, they deserve to beat us on the day. And they did deserve to beat us on the day. They were the better team. But it's why they were the better team that annoys me. And so many small things that we all keep pulling up on. Like, why was Alexis McAllister marking Dan Burn? That's just common sense. You know, and I spoke about Aaron Briggs being fired. And people gave out to me because I said, I think he was thrown under the bus by Slot. And people said, that's stupid, Craig. You're looking for any excuse to blame Slot. Well, is he or is he not the head coach? Is the head coach not responsible for everybody coaching below him? Aaron Briggs wasn't hired as a set-piece coach. ARNE put him in that role. And he failed in it. And he was the one held responsible, not the manager. So it's Aaron Briggs who lost his job. Not ARNE's poor decision-making. Now let's go back to many journalist reports that said it was actually Johnny Heidinga that had a really close relationship with the players, more so than the manager. And it was Johnny Heidinga that brought a lot of the good feel and goodwill to the training ground. I didn't say that. You didn't say that. That was written. And there's one more journalist piece that I haven't read out yet that shows you again that there is a turn. And this one comes from Chris Williams. And Chris Williams writes, in the cold light of day, Liverpool are seemingly as dull now as they were under Roy Hodgson. Passive, lacking any real confidence and very rigid. Fourth place says a lot to me about how drained the players are across the league, bar Arsenal, who look a cut above currently. So, intimating that we're in fourth place because everybody is so exhausted and the league's just not great anyway, bar Arsenal, and they're out in the lead, that we probably don't deserve to be in fourth place. We won 5 games at the start of the season, not playing well. And we all admitted it. Fair play to every Liverpool fan. We're always happy to win, but we weren't playing well. Nobody's able to name 90 minutes of a good performance this season. A full 90. You can name a good win or two. But when do we say it's not changing? When do some people just accept that we aren't getting better? We just have some good players that can make some good individual moments, but systematically, we are not great. And it's not exciting football to watch. You know, I'd accept mistakes in a Jurgen Klopp or a gegenpressing or an all-out attacking system because you know you're committing. You know you're leaving space, and if someone's good enough to exploit that, fair enough. But in this system, we're still being exploited and we're still conceding a lot, even though we're not being as commitful going forward. So the balance has been struck to try to, I'm sure, save us defensively, but it hasn't. All it's done is just make us monotonous, boring and easy to read. Martin Lawrence said, ARNE must go, but others have questions to answer. Definitely. Look, that's a more than fair statement. I am not here to say that ARNE is the only problem. The recruitment team have to look at that plan for the summer. Where was the plan to bring in a centre-back? Why was that situation with Mark Gay left so late? Was it... and we don't know the answers to this. Was it to save money? Was it a negotiating position? Was there a list of priorities of other positions? We don't know the answers to this. But we do know that right now, we're the walking wounded. The Isak situation is very unfortunate. The situation with Giovanni Leone is very unfortunate. But not selling Federico Chiesa when you know the manager doesn't want them, that's not unfortunate. That's just silliness. Because now we've got a player the manager won't use and will give a handful of minutes to. So yeah, I would like to hear from Richard Hughes. But Richard Hughes doesn't seem to want to sit in front of a microphone and answer any questions. So the only person that we can really hold accountable is the only person we hear from, which is ARNE. And I've said many times, I think ARNE has been put in a position to answer questions that aren't his to answer. So yeah, you're right, mate. You're absolutely right. There are more questions than just ARNE. It isn't all on him. The players, there have been so many underperforming performances this season that just haven't been good enough. Our captain hasn't performed well enough. Kanade's head's been all over the place. Mohamed Salah hasn't been himself. It took maybe a bit longer than we expected to start to see Isak get into form. Wirtz, I've no surprises on that if I'm being honest, because I always thought it was going to take Florian Wirtz a little bit of time to settle in. But yeah, you know, we just don't have a big enough squad, and we are one injury to a centre-back away from an absolute catastrophe. And that's before we even get... like, Canade could be sitting there on the phone right now, speaking to Vincent Kompany. He could be speaking to Florentino Perez. He could be speaking to Laporte of Barcelona. And he wouldn't even have to tell Liverpool. So we now have a centre-back in the second half of the season who is one of our only fit two centre-backs, and we don't know if he wants to be at the club or not. How is that in any way supposed to show a commitment to a fan base to believe that we're going to go on and do it? Because the line we keep getting is that these guys are professionals, that it doesn't affect them. But you know that's bullshit. And the reason you know that's bullshit is because Salah and Virgil told you it was in their heads. And they're two of the strongest mentally prepared footballers you'll ever see. And if it's in their head, I can bet your ass it's in Canade's head, and you can see that from his performances in the early part of the season. So we haven't even got that sorted out. The football club have let how many contracts now run down over the last few years? They've taken their eye off the ball. So yeah, there's accountability there as well. Trent situations should never been allowed to happen. The situation with Virgil, Mo, Robbo, all these shouldn't have been allowed to happen. But yeah, here we are. At the end of the season, Freddie Woodman, Ibrahim Kanade and Andy Robertson can all walk out the door for free. And Robbo and Woodman and Kanade can now be speaking to the clubs outside the Prem, and Liverpool wouldn't even have to be told about it. Sam Allardyce, sure they're even saying that. But Sam Allardyce has had something to say. And I disagree with some of it and I agree with some of it. This is what Sam has had to say. Clubs in the Saudi Pro League are interested in signing Salah, and Sam Allardyce believes Liverpool will cash in on the forward if they receive the right offer this month. He went on, this is the quote, "Make no mistake, Liverpool will sell him if a Saudi club comes in from with a good offer." He went on to say, "There's no loyalty either way in football, whether it's players or a football club wants to get rid. They've done it before. How much did they make off Jordan Henderson? Normally, he would have seen his contract out and gone for free." Well, you're absolutely talking shit on that one, Sam, because Henderson was rewarded with a new contract. Jurgen went to bat to get Mr. I'm saving football a new contract, and he wanted out. So it was nothing on the club. Jordan Henderson decided he was leaving to save football and grow the beautiful game around the world and do a little mini tour of Saudi Arabia and the Netherlands. So that he's very, very wrong on. But on the other part that he was talking about on the No Tippy Tappy Football podcast, I don't know if Liverpool will cash in or not this month on Salah. But I do know, and I've said it many times, I don't think that saga is over. Wayne, TOTT2KZ1. Wayne has said, "Craig, if this centre-back comes in January, then Gay in the summer, I'm liking the idea of VVD, Leone, Gay, and the new centre back. Hopefully, we get Alonso in. So for the centre back situation, what I would say to anybody is keep, if you're thinking 2-3 years or the longer term, I would say don't rule out the idea of Kwanzaa coming back, because I genuinely do think we'll see Kwanzaa come back at some point, summer or maybe the following summer. So he, I think, will form part of Liverpool's defensive setup in the future. Maybe it's after Virgil leaves. But there could be a world where you have an Ordonez, a Marque, a Leone, and this youngster as your 4 centre-backs moving on. And they all have to develop, of course, the younger ones, but certainly building up a good collection of young players there. And I know nothing about this young kid from Austria Vienna, absolutely nothing. But if he's as good as it's been made out to be, then it looks like this will be another good young centre-back for the future. L. said, I've given my 2p worth, so now I give my credit. Absolutely a pleasure as always, dude. And I appreciate you coming in. And, you and I have gone back and forth and disagreed on a few things, but I've always enjoyed our interactions. And you're a very respected member of our community, bro. And I hope that you know that. Why would you buy 2 players in January if Slot is gone? So I'm not sure, buddy, how long you watched the channel for or haven't, or maybe you just haven't heard me say this, but the whole point of a head coach versus a manager is for exactly situations like this. So when you've got a sporting director, which is the modern way, it started kind of European-wise and now it's come into the Prem. When you've got a sporting director, the sporting director's job is to set the footballing philosophy for the club, all the way from the underage teams right through to the first team. Now, I'm not saying he manages the first team. Of course, the manager the head coach coaches the first team. But when you're bringing in players, you're bringing in players for the system, not for the manager. So Richard Hughes would look at this and think, right, this young centre-back or this player, they come in, this will fit Liverpool's style, and it doesn't matter what coach we have in. Now, of course, every coach may like or dislike a certain player, but in theory, the sporting director's role is to make it so if a manager quits or leaves or is fired, there is a minimal impact on the club from top to bottom, because the footballing philosophy and the outlook is still the same. So that's why I think it doesn't really matter. If we want to buy these 2 players and ARNE gets fired, it won't make any difference, because the next coach they bring in will be brought in to be assessed from the squad that Liverpool have, and if they think that this coach can play the brand of football with these players. Same way we looked at ARNE against the likes of Ruben Amorim, where they thought there would be too much upheaval to switch to a system that we're not used to, and ARNE was brought in and was supposed to be this almost clone of Jurgen Klopp in style, and like Nessie said, I think it was, or Stargirl said, I don't know where that similarity is gone, but so yeah, so that's why, mate, in a long-winded answer. Would you take Enzo Maresca over Slot? God. I haven't really ever given much thought to the next manager after Slot. And I've heard a lot of good things about Enzo Maresca. And I've read a lot of great quotes from players who've worked with Enzo Maresca. And he's another disciple of Pep Guardiola. But I'm unsure, is the honest answer, mate. I'm unsure. I don't know. I sometimes do enjoy his outspoken nature and how blunt he is, because I'm a blunt person myself. So I've liked the way he's dealt with some press conferences around players maybe that aren't in squads for Europe or whatever. But I don't think he'd be at the top of my list if I was thinking about the next manager. But hand on heart, I haven't thought that far ahead, because it's better to wait to kind of see the names that are being bandied around and then do a bit more research on them, like I did when ARNE was being named and Amorim was being named, and I started to do more of a deep dive into those coaches to look at their styles of play and stuff. Maresca, I would have only really seen, Chelsea play when they play us in the Club World Cup and in a few other things. I don't know how he played at Leicester. I know he was well liked there. So yeah, for me, I don't know is the honest answer if he'd be good enough or not. But there must be something about him if he's so highly thought of as well at City. Who do you want next? I'd love Enrique or Xavi. Enrique, I just think we can rule out. Like if I'm to throw out a list of potential, and again, please don't take this as gospel, potential ones, you're talking about maybe Glasner, maybe Alonso if he gets fired by Madrid. We'll say Sebastian. Well, who's the other one that was being linked with us? The Frankfurt coach. He was being linked with us as well as a Honus. Yeah, there's nobody that springs to my mind right now that I would say outside of Jurgen Klopp is perfect to come in. Because if you brought in Xavi Alonso, you're probably going to have to change system. But I want us to change system. Because I think the players that we have, if you brought in a couple more centre-backs, lend themselves to a 3 or 5 at the back. What happens with Tuchel after the World Cup at England? Is he going to be available? Is Nagelsmann going to be available? So, yeah, it's one that actually has me sympathising and empathising and understanding more why maybe FSG haven't pressed the button yet to fire ARNE. But I think, let me ask you guys this question as a poll. 1 second. Right. Okay. So remember I mentioned that one of the things that I'd heard, and again, I heard isn't gospel. One of the things I heard was that the club were reticent to put Steven Gerrard in an interim post in case there's a groundswell of support if he starts doing well, because they don't want that awkward position of a manager coming in a temporary basis, doing well, and then not getting the job if he's won something. So I want to know what you guys would want. Would you rather keep Slot until the summer and see who comes in, or get Stevie but no long-term deal no matter what? Which one of those two would you prefer? And we'll come back to that one in a while. Because I know there are probably people that will still be backing ARNE anyway. And look, again, I'm just giving you my opinions. I'm not here to tell you that your opinion isn't valid. Jacko said, I think he has a decent tactical football mind, but he's genuinely awful manager. The way he speaks at times about players in the media is awful. Some things I just actually find myself bursting out laughing at. Like, I like Fede as a guy. I like him as a player. I mean, come on, dude. That's absolute bollocks. Thoughts on Zidane or Diego Simeone as manager? Imagine the chaos Simeone will bring, or Nagelsmann after a World Cup. Skeptical about current league managers. I would have zero. I keep talking about Zidane being the wrong cultural fit, and that confuses a lot of people when I say that. I just think Zidane has that Madrid aura, Galactico kind of vibe that isn't really one that connects to Liverpool fans. There's no denying his brilliance as a footballing brain. There's no denying his brilliance as a footballing coach and him winning Champions League after Champions League at Real Madrid. I just don't think he's in any way a right fit for Liverpool, and I think he'll take the French job after Didier Deschamps, who I think is stepping down after the World Cup, or he'll go potentially to Real Madrid again or somewhere else. I just don't see him being one for Liverpool. As with Cholo Simeone, can you imagine watching that every week? I mean, yes, we'd have the emotional outbursts on the sideline, but can you imagine watching the terrorist style of football we'd be playing with feigning of injuries and rolling around and absolute non-stop shenanigans all over the place? So I'd pass hugely on both of those two. Yeah, no Simeone for me. I couldn't be doing with it. He drives me demented. Even for me, he's too far in the other direction. And as for Julian Nagelsmann, that's a credible name. But I have the most petty reason in the world for having a gripe with him, and I explained it yesterday. And I first want to put my hand up and say it is petty. But he came with Hoffenheim, and he said he said something like the Anfield atmosphere, won't affect us and isn't what it's made out to be, or something like that. And I just thought, who is this little upstart in his little gilet coming in here? And they were knocked out by us and we progressed into the Champions League. But he's certainly a well-regarded coach. Is it Sebastian Hoeneß? Is that the name I'm trying to think of? Whose name has been mentioned as a hugely up-and-coming positive coach. Christine van der Mera said, Alonso knows Liverpool inside out. I've always been a fan of Nagelsmann, to Billy Beckner. I think he's one of the best options out there. Craig, mate, regarding my last super chat, I always feel respected here, mate. We both don't like what we see now, but we both love our club. I fuffin love you on the chat, brother. Right back at you, my man. Right back at you. Yeah, that feeling is mutual, mate. There's this myth that I can't take anyone disagreeing with me, Stu. I just can't take anyone being disrespectful or rude. And that applies to my own family, let alone the chat. Somebody can come in and disagree with me all they want, as long as they back up what they're saying with an opinion and not just come in to neg and say, you're an idiot, you know nothing, wrong. That has nothing to do with conversation. And they're the type of idiots that get blocked. Yes, not somebody who disagrees with me. So me and you, bro, we can, and me and many others, we can disagree and go back and forth a lot of the way, because it's sincere. It's a genuine, informed conversation between two people who just have differing views. If a player is found to be on the way out, we want rid of him. If Slot is out, get rid. Simple. Why let him damage? I will be of that mindset as well, mate. Like I said, for me, the turning point was the Forest game, and that was it. For me, I wanted him gone that night. And every game since that, it's just felt like I'm having to bite my lip. It's going to happen sooner or later. But I'm with you. If that decision's made, why not just do it now? Even if you got hiding it back in to see out the season, it doesn't matter. I would rather somebody who the players may be inspired by than what's happening now. And it's almost more of a hope than an expectation, because I don't see it turning. I don't see the Salah situation being finished. Like I said, I think there's going to be another back and forth there about the manager when he comes back. So yeah, look, I agree, but you and I aren't the ones that run the football club. So, I do respect the owners will have their own methodology to do this the way that they think it should be done. And that I respect that. They're the owners. And which is funny because I've disagreed with FSC in a lot over the years, but I did promise if they pony up and back a manager, I'll be quiet on a lot of it, and they've certainly done that this summer with the manager. So you haven't really heard me mention FSG in a negative way at all, other than that I do think Hughes should be answering a few more questions. Colin Flores said, we don't have the players for heavy metal football. So outside of losing, because Diogo Jota was a striker and a good striker and a loved striker, but I wouldn't say he was one of the fulcrums or start of the gegenpress and high intensity press. But your Darwins and your Diaz, for whatever faults we may have had, certainly did set the tone in that regard, as did Bobby Firmino before them. So not having the players to play the gegenpress system, I would kind of disagree with, other than a lack of pace. But I do think we have, because that system needs workhorses. It needs midfielders with engines. And I think with Curtis Jones, with McAllister, with Soboslai, with Gravenberch, I think we have those engines. I think Ekitike can certainly do the pressing from the front. And if you were to bring in another couple of, pacey players, and Frimpong has done a good job in the few bits and pieces we've seen from him lately, I think the gegenpressing system could be very easily attained again. You need young players, though, with fresh enough legs, because it does take a lot out. And that's why when players like, we've often seen Fabinho fall off a cliff really quickly, or others, their legs just go. Like, it is a demanding system. And that is why the likes of Richard Hughes would tend to look less favourably on players over 30 getting contract extensions, because they know only too well that the style of football is a very demanding one. And everybody has to buy in for it. And you can't really have dead weight or carry any players in the system, maybe one superstar, which is what made the PSG system so much more interesting, because they got rid of all the superstars, the Mbappes, the Neymars, the Messis, and they brought in good, technical, hardworking, hungry young players, and the likes of Ousmane Dembele, who had, the season of his career, and they bought into it. And everybody bought into and believed in the system and worked and fought together, because you have to be a unit and not a group of individuals. And PSG for seasons were just individuals, and then they became a unit. They became a team that's better than the sum of their parts, and that's why they were so incredible. But even at that, they burnt out, because you see when the Club World Cup came around and Chelsea came to them, they just didn't have the legs. Didn't have the legs again to match that Chelsea team. Michael said, "Hey Craig, I believe we should show Slot the door and bring Heidinger back as interim for the remainder of the season, as players had a better connection with Heidinger, and I believe we will move forward." I think it will be a decent option. Yeah, I do. But I like I said, I don't know. I don't know what happens. Like, I'd be interested to see what would happen if, let's say, Alonso got fired by Madrid next week. What would happen then? Would Liverpool move? Would you see stuff about it? Or would we not? Because I don't know the list. All I can say to you is that I know that the belief is that he's going to be fired. But I don't know who the next guy is going to be up. I haven't got a clue on that one. And you could say the name to me, and I wouldn't be able to say yes or no, because I don't know. Right, let's get some more of your comments. Oh, I'm gone the wrong way with those ones, sorry. Canade's performances only seem to improve once Real Madrid let it be known they're interested. Cooled in him, said Martin Lawrence. Interestingly, though, the other day, Martin, there was a piece that said his intermediaries had reached out to Madrid to try to regain some interest in that situation. I really would love to know what's going on there, because you know my take on these things. It doesn't take this long to make up your mind, and if you know you want to stay at a club, it'll just come down to a numbers game that you can both get to your bottom line on quite quickly. When it drags into these type of situations, like with the Trent situation, I think it looks more and more like these guys are leaning to leaving. And maybe the club are happy to accept that. I don't know. I can't really second guess on that one. But I do know I don't feel comfortable as a fan with the situation in the same way I didn't with the Trent situation. Right, let's get back in. Get Slot in the Chelsea job, said the hopeful guy. Indicala exclusive on Wharton. I went over that, and I'll go back over it again in a few minutes, my man. Joe said, I kind of want Slot to stay till the summer so everybody can see he was given time and money but wasn't up to the job. By all accounts, Real Madrid have started looking for Xabi's replacement for the summer, said Esther. Craig, I know that if Slot knows he has no job in the summer, he won't care about performances. Just rip the plaster off and get rid now. Yes and no, because in one way, of course, I understand where you're coming from, but in another way, he's going to want to show potential future employer something as well. So, there is still professional pride at stake there. Just seems to be convenient, Gerrard tossing his name in like his agents heard something. But isn't there something on Stevie G that if he takes up a job before, I think it was March, something like that, then he'd be liable for a load of tax from the money he earned over in the Saudi Pro League? Because I think you have to be out of the UK or not working in the UK for 24 months, 24 months to be able to then not have to pay the tax. I think if he starts working before then, he'd be liable for a load of tax. Open to be corrected on that by somebody, but that's, I'm sure, something I read a while back. Right, so again, we're nearly up to 1,000 votes on this one, but we said, would you rather keep Slot until the summer or get Stevie G in now knowing there's no long-term deal there from in the future? We'll keep voting on that one and see what you guys think. Craig, do you think the win against Inter Milan gave Slot more time? It's a tough one to say. It was a good result. Simply, let's not try and lie about that. Any result away against Inter Milan that you get a win is a good result. Was the performance great? Not really, but it's Europe away, so you'll take any win. I don't know. I don't know if it would have given him more time or not, but I do know that the run of games in and around that and after that was, according to Opta anyway, an easy run of fixtures for us that we should have been lapping up points in. And we dropped 2 lots of points to Leeds. Home and away. Of course, for a short period of time, we dropped 4 points there. We beat Brighton at home, but if they had their shooting boots on, we were losing that game because they outperformed us. We went life and death with Wolves. The end of that game from a comfortable 2-0 position, and we were kind of hanging on a little bit. And even against Leeds, they had a couple of chances in the Dominic Calvert-Lewin one, which was his leg a few inches offside away from us conceding a late goal there as well. And these are all the things I'm saying. Like, we've gotten away with some wins, and we just haven't played well. That's what it comes down to for me. We just haven't played well. 60s Red said, can you honestly see us beating any of the big teams in Champions League knockout? I'm very sceptical we can. On our day, we can beat anybody. On our day. But would I be confident? No, I wouldn't. But you'd always say, Anfield factor, anything's possible. But we're playing Fulham. We're playing Fulham in the next game. And my prediction, I recorded for that earlier on, and it's going to come out on Saturday morning because I'm going to take Saturday night off work, and that video will come out early Saturday morning. But I'll tell you one thing I didn't do in that prediction, and that's predict a win. Because I don't think I would be being realistic to predict a win based off what we're seeing, and based off Fulham not being a bad outfit at all, and the fact that it is away at Craven Cottage. I don't want to give away too much, but like I said, that's my thought process going into that one. And one final time tonight, just a reminder as well that don't forget to come join us over on Big Up, community platform where you can play our new predictions game and add a bit of competition for our watch-alongs moving forward. Predictions on Big Up is a simple sweepstakes game where you can win fantastic prizes, and there's even a free-to-play option. Download the Big Up iOS app or head over to bigup.com, click on the Anfield Agenda Fulham watch-along predictions. You'll see the list of 6 prediction questions for the match with yes or no answers. Answer between 2 and 6 of those predictions and choose your entry amount. Prediction games can be entered between $2 and $10. Choose your entry amount and decide if you'd like to play the power play or the flex play option. By choosing flex play, even if one of your selections loses, you'll still win a prize. You need a minimum of 3 selections. In power play, you've got to get every single one right to win. When you join your first Big Up predictions game, you'll automatically receive $5 or 500 big bucks as a thank you, and you can use that for future predictions games or to gift your favourite Big Up content creator. And I'm not saying who that might be, but if he happens to be Irish, bald, overweight, and wearing a red top right now, fair enough. And I want to show you this as well, because these are my Big Up predictions for the Fulham game. So if you think you can beat me, come across and have a go. I have said there will be under 3 goals in this match. No, we reckon there will be 3 goals or more. Hugo Ekitike to score a goal. Yes, because of course I'm backing our boy Hugo to score. Raul Jimenez to score a goal or have an assist. We've said no. And there will be over 3 cards in the match. I've said yes, there will be over 3 cards in the match. So if that comes in, we've laid down 500 big bucks or $5 as our stake, and the payout would be $38.50 or 3,850 big bucks if we are victorious. And of course, it is over 18s only. And if you do want to come along and play, we'll be keeping an eye on the predictions leaderboard right throughout the game as well to see who's shit hot and who's not. Yeah, I enjoy it. Because, like I said, I like to test my football knowledge, and anything that makes our watch-alongs and games a bit more interactive and adds a bit more competition element into it, I'm all for. So, again, thank you to our sponsors, Big Up, and again to you guys for your continued support of everything it is that we do. Right. Hey, Craig, I believe we should show... no, I've done that one already. Let me get through some more of your comments. So I also want to know some more of your New Year's Eve, of your your New Year's resolutions. My New Year's resolution is a simple one. It's not to click on anything the mods have deleted out of morbid curiosity, because that's something that I've done loads of times on the channel over the years that has led to me getting angry about something. The mods have done their job and they've already banned them, but I can still click on it and see it. So I promised I'm not going to do that. And just as I say that, there was a comment that was deleted there by the mods, and I'm going to leave that be and not going to go back near it. So that's mine. That's my hope for 2026, is that I can show a bit more restraint and a bit less morbid curiosity to the comments that the mods have already removed. Right, where was I at? That one I've done. That one I've done. That one I've done. That one I've done. This one. Chris Thorne. How are we, Chris? Said, hi, Craig. Just stopped by. Isn't it just like FSG to sign a centre-back and he's only 17? That's okay for the profit margin in the future, but not for now. Yeah, you need a mixture there. So, like you said, there's nothing wrong with bringing in great quality young centre-backs. You know, we got to see a very limited amount of Giovanni Leone, Chris, but my God, didn't he look like the business. So that one, I'm already sold on. He's going to be a star. I know nothing about this young kid from Austria Vienna coming in, but I can say this to you. If we sign Joel Ordonez at 21, I think he would be somebody that could come in and start playing right away, and could be a mainstay in the Liverpool starting 11 for the future. The situation that's starting to get me more and more nervous now is the Mark Gay situation. Because right now, as we sit here, like I said about Canada earlier on, Mark Gay could be on the phone to Vincent Kompany at Bayern Munich. He could be on the phone to Barcelona, Real Madrid, any club outside of the Premier League. And there's nothing Palace can do about it. And of course, Liverpool can't enter into a negotiation with Mark Gay without first reaching an agreement with Crystal Palace. And it doesn't look as if we're going to make a push to sign him in January. So I'm hoping that, you know, the information that I've had, that Cave believes from Sky, and I think Lewis Steele as well, is that there's a gentleman's agreement there and that he will become a Liverpool player. But I do really, really hope that's the case. And I'd still rather we put money on the table to go to try and sign him in January, in all honesty. Craig, have you guys started on the studio interior yet, mate? No. So the inside plastering was finished today. There's one more set of stuff to be done electrically. The electrician's coming in to fit a few bits and pieces. Then the fit out starts on the inside of it. Some of that we're waiting to get some stuff delivered to us. Some of it we have here and ready to go. The table is the big thing, mate, for the studio that we're waiting on. We ordered that last month, but it's going to take between 10 and 12 weeks to get here from China. And then, of course, you've got your fingers crossed that the table is as good as it looks and as good as it should be for the price you paid for it. So we've got that to come in. We've got a graphic artist coming in to do some work inside it. We've got some memorabilia to put up, flooring to put in. Yeah. So I'm not expecting to be making content from there till probably February/March time. But I'm also in no rush for it because I want it to be done right. And I want you guys to be proud of it as our community. So, yeah, I can't wait to show you. I really, really can't. But I want it to be when it's done and when it's all right. Oh, and on this as well, actually. Where is it? Is it this one? No. This one? Yeah. On this one, thank you so much. We're up to about 63% now on the GoFundMe to try and raise the money to get Adam over to defend his European Championship. So as you can see there, this is a GoFundMe set up by his mum. Adam and Dylan have been selected to represent Team Ireland in the European Championships, which will be held in Serbia in February this year now. Adam and Dylan are twins who are competing in the MMA circuit for a number of years. To be picked again to represent the country means the world to them. Unfortunately, MMA isn't a recognised sport, which means funding isn't available through Sport Ireland. That means that we have to raise the money for them to be able to do this. Now, what I will say to you is, Adam is a multi-time Irish champion, a European champion, a World Championship runner-up. And this guy, as well as being a local here in my community, I've met and got to know his family in recent times. And this kid is so focused and zoned in. Messages me at 5:30 in the morning. Craig, I'm up for a run. Messages me to say, Craig, I've just finished school. I'm off to the gym. Because he's sitting his final exams as well. I'm saying to you with every confidence, I believe this young man will be in the UFC one day. And I think if we as a community, like we always have done, can let this young man live his dream, we're playing a big part in that. So I hope that you guys, rather than maybe sending a super chat, can go and make a small donation there. We've donated €1,000 to kick it off on your behalf. Brian has made a big donation as well. Others in our community, I recognise the names, have come in and made a donation. And I think we need about €1,400 more to get him to his target. That would allow himself, his coaches, to go over there and compete and hopefully bring back the gold that I feel very, very confident he will. And again, thank you so much. These are the type of things we're proud to do and want to do, to give back to not just our local community, but our sporting community all around, and do so in your name. So thank you for your support. Right, Stargirl, how are we? Happy New Year. Before Klopp joined us, he had experience of managing a big team and was in the European Championship final. We need to get somebody similar. It was always going to be a big step up for ARNE to come in. Definitely. Like, going from managing and winning a Dutch Eredivisie title. And I know he went quite deep with, was it Alkmaar in one of the Europa Conference or one of those competitions as well. But yeah, look, it's a huge step up. Which is why it was so big for him to win that league in the first season. But now it's looking like that was more individual quality than managerial brilliance, or player quality than managerial brilliance. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a tough one to look at. Like, if we look around the world right now at top level, super elite coaches who've been there, done it, won it, there's not that many really, is there? You've got your Mourinho's who, let's be honest, like football's kind of moved past him. You've got Carlo Ancelotti, who's now over managing the Brazilian national team and is at the kind of end point of his career. You've got Jurgen, and we were blessed to have him for 9 years. There ain't too many. You know, you've got Antonio Conte, who is a very short-term manager and wouldn't be a good fit for us and is elsewhere. You've got the likes of Inzaghi, who's now over managing one of the clubs in the Saudi Pro League. Trying to think, is there other ones I'm missing out on that have got huge prices? Obviously Pep Guardiola. So yeah, there aren't really that collection that I can think of around that would make me feel like there's super obvious candidates to go and get. Even in the summer when we were talking about the coaches, like you were talking Alonso's, Amorim's, De Zerbi's name was mentioned by a few people, and there was no manager that was going to come in that everybody just went, yep, that's the guy. Because when Klopp came in, I don't know very few people, if any, that said, this is a risky appointment. You know, at the time it came down to him and Carlo Ancelotti, and whichever one became the Liverpool coach, I think Liverpool fans would have fully understood the signing of that coach as the manager. Now, I don't know, it just feels a bit like the options are a bit fewer out there. But then again, is that a good enough reason to keep ARNE around? Probably not, no. And Happy New Year to yourself and your dad as well, Stargirl. Elmir says, 5:30 a.m. and you're just going to bed, Craig. Still up. Well, in bed, but watching TV at that point, yeah. And that young man's up, going for his run before school. And then he's studying for his final exams in school. And then he's training after school. And do you know what else impresses me about him? Do you know how I met Adam? He's labouring for the builder that has been building the office/shed for us. And he does a Saturday with him so he can buy his supplements and his post and pre-workout stuff that he needs. So my goal after the GoFundMe that we hope to raise to help him to go over there is I'm going to sit down with his family and try to find a way that we can make sure he never has to worry about, you know, doing anything other than training and trying to get and living his dreams. So I'm going to work my ass off to try to find that nutrition supplier that will get on board with him, back him, and allow him to just do what he needs to do. Because it would break my heart if he had an accident labouring or something on the building site that, because, you know, it's a dangerous old gig. And if that had some way a negative impact on his career, it would break my heart. So I want to make sure that we can try and look after him after the competition. The competition is the short-term fix. Try and make sure he can get over there, defend his gold medal, and then look to move forward and work with him as well. Same with Courtown Hibs. No, not that one. This one. Same with Courtown Hibs. Like we got that set of kits for one of the teams, and we're going to get a set of kit for another one of the underage teams, and we're hoping to do that once a season moving forward as well on behalf of the Anfield Agenda community to give back again to grassroots football here in my local community. Thank you, Free Fire Wisdom. Appreciate you. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say I've really, really enjoyed tonight's stream with you all. Thank you. I felt like I've had a lot to say for once rather than, you know, it being as interactive as it usually is. But I did have a lot that I wanted to come on tonight and say. So I'm going to go now and record a transfer news update for people that are maybe coming in later or were paying attention to TV or doing something else. That'll be out in the next 20-25 minutes. Connor will have a news video out tomorrow morning. I'll see you guys tomorrow night for the late night agenda as always. And again, if you think you can come and beat us over on Big Up, I think you can come up with better predictions and you're 18 years or over, well, get yourself over to bigup.com, click on the Anfield Agenda, Fulham watch along, make your selections, and let's see what the leaderboard says. Again, love you all to bits. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What you do for me on a daily basis as an individual, as a content creator, means the world. I love you all to bits. Thank you for letting me do what I do. Thank you for being here with us, and I'll see you soon. Much love.